help us better understand how we can support our staff to do their jobs safely.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Cashmore.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'd reiterate the Deputy Mayor's comments. Clear, the work you've done here. We've started from somewhere behind the start line and we've actually gone fairly well. I wonder if you give us some commentary, please, on the key reporting trends which are sort of tracking down, whereas in fact you would think they'd either be tracking up or flatlining. Is this a symptom of, in fact, we've identified all the hazards, or is it a symptom of a lack of reporting?
Through the Chair, reporting is one of our key issues. So we had a good spike of near-miss reporting over a couple of months where two business units in particular, City Park Services and Infrastructure and Environmental Services, worked very hard to ensure that near-miss reporting was their focus. And just to make clear, we want more near-miss reporting. It's one of the areas of reporting that we want more of, because the more near misses we know about and therefore can minimise or remove altogether, the less likely we are to have injuries or incidents. However, we have a couple of issues. We have a reporting system that isn't as user-friendly as we would like it to be, and that has definitely impacted people's willingness to report things. We also have people in the past who have reported and nothing's happened in response. So what we're trying hard to do is to change the approach. We want to encourage people to report, even if it's something small, because it really helps us better understand what's happening across the organisation so we can focus our resources and time, but also to take action and take action quickly so that people feel the issues they're raising are being responded to. That is quite a big task given how large we are and what the reporting culture has been like previously. We are working very hard to identify alternative reporting systems that make reporting easy and user-friendly. That will be one thing. But actually our roles as leaders are to support our staff and to encourage them to identify things so that we don't, and I think I've used this example before, have 10 or 15 people slipping on a slippery floor and it's not until someone breaks their arm before we do anything about it. So we are seeing some differences, we are seeing some change, but it will take some time. And one of the areas we also need to focus on are our contractors and ensuring that we are aware of what's happening on sites or where people are working on behalf of council, because actually it's not just about our people, it's about the thousands of people who are working with us in different parts of Auckland delivering outcomes.
Thank you. Just supplementary, Madam Chair, if I may. So does Vault allow us to close the loop so the person's lodged a potential issue or risk, there's been action taken? So does the Vault system allow us to go back to that person and say, okay, look, thanks for the notification, we've actually solved it, this is what we've done?
Not very easily, no,
yeah.
Which is why it requires active participation of the person working with them to close the loop, or for us to be able to do that, which is a big manual exercise. It lets the person know above the staff member or the person they report to that an issue's been raised, and it's beholden on that person to then address it. To manually close the loop for every incident is quite challenging, which is one of the things we've identified as something we need to address in any new system, so that anyone should be able to go in and see easily what's happening with the issue they've raised. But that doesn't stop the need for us to talk with each other, and if anyone in my team has an injury or an incident or raises a concern, actually as a leader, my job is to make sure I support them. So there's both a system change and a behaviour change that we're working on.
Okay, thank you.
But fingers crossed, through the Chair, we are testing the market with great robustness and asking a lot of questions, because people will promise things that they can't deliver, and if we are going to change systems, we want to make sure that it is something that works for our diversity and our complexity, but also for our people.
Thank you. Councillor Penrose.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks, Claire, and also thanks to Penny too on your clarity there, Penny, as well. And I think we need to put it in perspective. When we come in 2010, our staff numbers were up there. We were set up by the ATA, as we know, but 5.5 coming up 6 years later, we're still 3% lower in staff numbers than what we were when we had 8 councils together. We've had about 1,100 staff leave the organisation this year alone for a vast number of reasons, whether it's been poached or whether it's, they've gone on their own merit to explore other avenues. But we're under the pump. In our building area, we're under the pump, man, hugely. And this year alone, we've done 148,000 inspections. 148,000 inspections from Tihana to Pukekohe. And some of those in rural areas where they've got a hell of a long distance to drive, big areas to drive. And when our guys get there, a lot of the time they get abused. Why do they get abused? Because of Section 92s that have been put in. The projects have been stopped for bad information. And generally, they blame council for it. But I can tell you now, a lot of it's around consultancy work, a lot of it's around architect and engineer stuff. I've been down that track. I've seen it happen. I waited 8 months for my consent, but it wasn't council. It was bad stuff that was submitted. You know, so we've got to put things into perspective here. Not only that, I continue to hear from the private sector that our guys that come from council are the highest of trained guys because they have a vast area of experience and learning area to work from. And of course the private sector love that because then they go and poach them. I can tell you to date, we're getting private sector offering $20,000 to $40,000 more a year and a company vehicle. And we're losing skilled guys. So if we want to be up there with it, if we want to be on the international stage, then we've got to back it up. Simple as that. You know, $10 billion worth of spend over the next 5 years across Auckland. Do your maths, do your homework, that's it. Simple, black and white. So we've got to look after our guys. And, you know, when I hear, look, we all do it. Jump on the motorway, you know, frustration, traffic, the whole lot. It's a hard yard out there, man. So I think we've got to cut some slack, get them behind it and support it.
Thank you, Councillor Penrose. And it's been moved and seconded. Claire, I'm absolutely delighted anyone can go 10% over the speed limit in some areas of Auckland. You're lucky if you can go under it.
Madam Chair, on that,
Thank you.
and I know you're indulging us today because it is our last committee. I sort of refrain myself from taking a call, but I feel the urge to. I think this highlights, given the numbers of vehicles that Auckland Council has on the road at any one time, it highlights a problem that I think we have with Auckland, that Australia does much better. On the key arterials, they allow 60k. Around schools, it's 40k, and it's rigidly policed. Given the level of congestion that we've got, when there are clear stretches, I observe that many people are over that 50k limit, and it's not the appropriate forum to discuss it here, but at some forum we do need to have a discussion about whether the speed limits that we've set, given the growing population, the congestion, are appropriate, you know, for the conditions. So there are some where we know that we need to see a general reduction, especially as we're trying to pedestrianise areas. But I don't think we've got the right mix, and so I put it on the table here, Madam, for you to consider where it could get referred to. But I think the level of incidents that are reported here are indicative of just widespread problem across the community.
I tend to agree with you, Councillor Fletcher. I mean, there are, yes, but I'm not too sure we would send that one, probably to whoever's in Auckland Transport next, in the Ministry of Transport as well. So thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, councillors.
Well done, and it's been wonderful having you here, and I'm sure that wherever you're moving to next will be just as enthusiastic, and you'll be just as thorough, and you will clearly elucidate what we need to know for those of us who are around the table.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Babysitting. Thank you. Right, we'll go back to the order of the agenda. So we have item number 10, annual report. Welcome, Francis. Who's with Francis? And Christine.
Christine.
Thank you. Yep. We'll have a small presentation, thank you. Welcome.
So Kevin's just going to run through our presentation and then we'll take comments.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep. So through the Chair and Councillors, thank you very much for your time. Look, there is a reasonably short presentation. Most of the information you'll see here you've seen in various forms, but really this is the one opportunity to bring it together as part of a process we're running through towards ultimately, hopefully, the adoption at next Thursday's governing body meeting. Just a reminder that this does cover the whole council group, this report. So it's the council parent plus all the CCOs. It is bringing all the information together. It covers the period 1 July 2015 through to 30th of June 16, so the full financial year. And ultimately, the purpose of this document is we have gone out through an LTP and an annual plan process with our public and expressed the expectations around what services will be delivered, how much that's going to cost, how that will be funded. And so this is really that opportunity now to go back and actually articulate how have we actually performed against those expectations for that last financial year. At the bottom of the slide in front of you, just a little reminder, the various parts of the process we actually work our way through here. So the 9th of August, what you saw was a presentation which was the parent performance. So that was Auckland Council. That was the final quarter results. The CCO Governance and Monitoring Committee, then on the 6th of September, saw each of the individual CCOs' performance. Again, it was their fourth quarter results, which in effect were a proxy for their draft annual report. The 13th of September, quite recently, the Audit and Risk Committee then reviewed the process behind this and heard from the auditors their findings on the controls and processes in Council. And as a result of that committee meeting, they have supported the adoption of the annual report that you have in front of you today. Today, obviously the 22nd of September, what we're looking to do is to table the actual report review today and hopefully receive your recommendation to also add to audit and risks and propose that the governing body next Thursday adopts the actual annual report itself, including the summary annual report. One thing it's definitely worth pointing out, there's a constant improvement program in place. And these reports that you have in front of you, if you can remember what they looked like last year, have been significantly redesigned to improve the readability, but also by restructuring it, by formatting it differently, there's been an opportunity to remove a lot of duplication and immaterial information. Stuff that is not of pressing need for the public and can actually just make it more burdensome to actually work your way through the document. Ultimately, as well as the quality of it, it has actually led to a 15% reduction in the number of pages. Now, as you'll see from the document you have, it is still quite a lengthy series of tomes that make it up. And what you'll see there in that little box section at the bottom there is just a little breakdown what makes it up. The local board requirement on this council does require extra transparency, extra reporting back against those expectations at a local board level, so there is a complete volume for that. The most significant reductions was in the financial statements. 116 pages is still a decent number of pages, but what it is a significant reduction on last year, around about a quarter or 25% reduction in what you see there. It's been a major effort by a lot of people, including you've got Christine Francis sitting here, you've got Jenny Livsich, who's presented the quarterly results on a regular basis to you, but obviously there's a team behind them as well that have actually done a major effort in consulting, reviewing, taking opportunities for others that do review our reports as well to make suggestions. Look, every report we talk about mentions growth, and there has been the usual significant growth drivers over the last financial year. Since we came into existence, which is just under 6 years ago now, 170,000 extra people, more than the size of Hamilton City, have come to live in this area. That puts large pressures on this organisation as a key deliverer of services, and obviously what that does lead to is investment in infrastructure, increasing demands of services, so not just actually the number of services, but the level of those services. And obviously with the structural changes we've made, the new entities, combining CCOs and various things, supporting some pretty significant one-off initiatives within that. A few quick indicators of growth, just to show the sheer scale involved and what the change has been. Public transport patronage, close to 83 million trips. Rail patronage alone up by 21%. Huge increase. And really pleasing is the notion that hop cards are now being held and used by 90% of our customers. When we look at the resource building, building inspections, the consents, all of those, as you'll have seen in previous reports, significantly up.
Kevin, I just want to clarify on the building consents. My understanding is up 23%, so there's a...
That's the year-on-year figure we've got is 13%. I wonder if you've seen one of the quarterly results.
Right.
We can check that out. Yep,
That's
we'll check that out.
30th.
Yeah, but these are annual year-on-year result changes.
Well up,
Yeah.
Yep, definitely well and truly up anyway. So look, as I say, that's just a few of the indicators. There are more within the document just showing the level of growth of change and services within the Auckland area. Jumping to a few of the numbers, the group financial highlights. The operating surplus before the other gains and losses, so this is the core operating result of the group, is a $250 million operating surplus. We budgeted about $211 million, so it's better than we anticipated. Capital expenditure, huge capital program, large investment in the city and the region as a whole, $1.4 billion worth. And look, it is always worth pointing out here too, the structure we operate under here. Significant delivery arms of this group are the CCOs. 70% of that CapEx program was through them. Asset values, you are responsible and steward for a large organisation, close to $45 billion worth of assets. That's up $2.5 billion on last year. Gross debt levels, it's up to $7.6 billion now, which is below forecast, about $436 million less than we anticipated to be in the LTP at this time. And just if you do look through those financial statements, I opened by talking about the operating surplus for gains and losses. That's the true operating result. There are significant book entry movements further on down the statement, sort of what we call below the line. If you do see those, we're definitely happy to give you explanations on those. There are large drops, large gains and large losses. Overall, though, they are significant gains as a result of property changes. I won't go through this slide in detail. You do have that in front of you. That's really just to give some indications about where that $1.4 billion worth of capital investment actually occurred.